Hello everybody, Dalek6 speaking. Sorry about the mess in here. I've been doing a bit of DIY. On account of the fact that you can probably tell that I am in the midst of a miniature arcade game related midlife crisis of no small proportions. Now, to start the story off, it all began back before Christmas. And I noticed a certain European company, who we are not going to name and they will not be going to space today, was selling a machine, a pinball cabinet that you could slot your tablet into, your Android tablet, and that would play your pinball games with proper arcade buttons. Lovely, lovely. So I ordered one, I didn't get one, and it was all a bit ugly, and I wasn't very happy. But the thing about me is I don't like to sit back and rest on grudges. I really, really like sitting back and resting on grudges. And I began to wonder, could I make this table myself for a handful of pocket change? And then I thought, well, yes, obviously I can if I figure it out. But I'm not good at electronics, so I don't really know how to do this. But then I came across this video of somebody who'd made their own pinball controller by taking a PC joypad, a wired one, and tearing the shoulder buttons off and soldering those to arcade flipper buttons. And I thought, well, I'm not very good at soldering. I've only got like a school training in it. But I'm pretty sure I can do that. And I'm pretty sure that all shoulder buttons on cheap controllers are just like hanging off the board with the wires already soldered there. In fact, the only controller I can actually think of offhand where the shoulder buttons are integrated into the board are the Sega Saturn ones. So, thus my journey began. Now, you can tell I'm a professional because we're going to do this Ashen style on an ugly sofa. Oh, this is going to hurt. Right, doing it on an ugly sofa and getting a neck ache. The story of my early to mid-20s. Now then, the first thing I did, here is the tablet, which I bought specifically for pinball, and it's fallen over, which I bought specifically for pinball, which I thought I'd got lumbered with now that the table itself wasn't arriving. So the first thing I did, I got, let me just grab one, bear with. I got a cheap SNES controller, you know, the kind that comes with a Soldier Boy console or whatever. They cost about £3 from Amazon, eBay or AliExpress. I got one of these, which is a micro USB to USB converter, and I plugged it into this tablet. You can either use a video game or you can download a gamepad tester app to see whether it worked, and lo and behold it did. All you need is a device which supports something called USB OTG, which means USB on the go. And all that means, it sounds complicated, but all it actually means is that when you plug a mouse or a keyboard or something into the machine, it will actually work. So that worked. Then I downloaded an app called Octopus. And what this does is it allows you to remap the inputs on any device that you plug in to touches on the touchscreen. Hello, something's gone mad. I think that's my Contra arcade machine dying. Oh well, never called me mother. So, I remapped the shoulder buttons to here and here, where you press on a pinball game to activate the flippers. And then I started thinking, could I actually build a pinball machine and get the cost, including all parts, down below what this company was charging for just the empty table. So, ta-da! This bad boy is the box for my 8BitDo arcade stick. There it is down there on the floor. And I'll just pick this up so I can show you. This is the guts of a cheapo SNES controller. And you can see where the shoulder buttons used to be. I've just pulled those off, stuck a wire on each of them, and secured it with hot glue. And wired that to a couple of micro switches. Now, a word of advice before we plug this thing in. The thing about cheap circuit boards is you do not want to be holding... What the hell? Which machine is... Okay, it's not the Contra. You're all being turned off. One of you misbehaves, you all die as an example. I'm decimating the Legion. I bet it was heavy barrel. Screw that machine. So yeah, you don't want to be holding the soldering iron directly onto one of these boards, because they're very cheaply made, and if you hold your soldering iron directly on, the longer you go, the more the chance is that you will burn these contacts off the board, and once they are off, they ain't going back on again. So, is this all still connected? It looks like one of them's come out. Oh no, they're both still connected. So, what I recommend you do, let's try and get a better angle here, is hold the soldering iron a little bit off the board and sort of like lower your wire onto it and sort of like try and do it about 1 millimeter away, because this is the second controller that I've tried. I broke the first one. But, you know, at a cost of like £2.60, it really doesn't matter much. So let's plug this bad boy in. You can see I made the bracket by just duct taping some polystyrene packaging in. And where's the wires? Here we go. That goes into the adapter like so. The adapter goes into the top of the tablet. Now we start the game off by loading up Octopus. And when we add a game, or when we go into a game, you have to load it through this. There's this little mini menu at the side where you can press the add button here and then assign the buttons and drag them to the corner of the screen. So just load one of these buggers up. You still have to do the flippers on the table, but on this tablet rather. But and you can see that a wire has got crossed there, so so that's not working properly. It did work properly last time I turned it on. Somehow all the buttons have all got cut. Somehow the wires have got crossed, and I need to untangle them. But yeah, the theory is sound. And the total cost of the build was £2 each for the flipper buttons. The cardboard was free. The wire was free. I got from a local company who only sells in bulk, and they just gave me a few feet of it. And the joypad was, as I said, about £2.50, £3. So, the tablet is an Amazon Fire HD10. That cost me £100, but you can get them cheaper. The only problem with the Fire HD10 is that its proprietary system is a little bit snotty. To get decent performance out of Williams Pinball, I had to disable Alexa, disable the spyware, disable all of the rubbish that sends your data back to Amazon. And I just about got it working. You still will notice frame drops on Zachariah Pinball, unfortunately. I think, is it Magic Pixel that do those? Anyway, they're a great team, but they have much less resources than Zen and Farsight, so they're not going to be optimizing their shit for rubbish operating systems like this. The other thing I've got installed is one called Super Volume Booster. And you can amplify your sound. So if you want to add a cheap Bluetooth or wired speaker, you can actually get some really chunky noise out of one of these. So that is cost of tablet plus about £10, which I think is pretty good going. So I decided to up my game a little bit. Well, off you go, lovey. So, I got myself, instead of some micro switches, some integrated leaf switches. And the difference here, they've got about the same amount of throw as the micro switches, but the point of contact is at the bottom rather than at the top, whereas with the micro switch it clicks first and then you get the throw. And these are pretty much the same price as the micro switches, but you will get a much nicer, much more arcadey feel with them. And I switched up the building material to medium density fiberboard. This costs about less than £10 a metre, I'd say. And the support / bracket is made out of pine strip wood, which costs about £5 a metre. So the cost of building materials is still pretty negligible. The big change, though, was swapping out the self-soldered board for one of these. Now this is called a zero delay USB encoder, and it is basically the guts of a USB gamepad. Any of these plugs you see on the board here can be assigned to a joypad function. So I've got these plugged in via the board to the leaf switches, and you can see these little, getting in my own light here, but these little plugs are called crimped connectors, and they just slide straight over the button's contacts. There is no need for any soldering at all here. And 1 second to plug this bugger in. Tripod's falling over because it's on an ugly sofa. Let's see, where's the plug on this one? Oh, it's in the same place. Yeah, of course it's in the same place. It's in the same tablet. What the hell am I talking about? So that goes in here. But we go back to the Williams Pinball. Yeah, game crashed. Octopus, by the way, is free to use, but you will have to redefine the keys every time you use it. If you pay a few pounds for a basic account, it will save your inputs. And if you pay a little bit more, I think about £5 for a pro account, you will be able to save gestures as well. So you'll be able to use the tilt, drill extra buttons in and assign to a tilt. And that looks and feels the absolute business. Now I've made, including these two, I've made 4 of these so far. I've made 1 each for Geordie and Dave from my favourite pinball side. Geordie's was made with an 8-inch Asus tablet, which Curry's are currently selling for £50. So that brought the build cost down to 60, including the tablet. And Dave's one was made for the Nintendo Switch, which obviously puts the price up, but if you've already got a Switch lying around, then that's not gonna be a consideration. Now, the problem with doing it with a Switch is the Switch is very snotty as to what game controllers it will talk to. So I went back to basics because it wouldn't talk to the encoder, and I got myself one of these. This is a Rock Candy controller. You can get them for £10 to £15. They're wired, and if I try and get a good shot of this, you see 4 little contacts here, and there's one on the other side as well. That is where the shoulder buttons are wired to. So if you can get a couple of wires on them, it's easier than soldering directly to the contacts on the board, and you get 2 shots at it. I did actually burn the contacts off on the first one I tried, but thankfully, because both of these shoulder buttons will work for left flipper and right flipper, it gave me a little bit of wiggle room there. A couple of points of advice: when you've got this open, instead of just leaving the board naked in the machine as I did, once you've got the wires secure, I would maybe drill or burn a little hole in this joypad case and put it back and screw it back on for a little bit of extra security. Also, for God's sake, don't use single core cable. That means cable which is solid metal all the way through, because it doesn't like to bend. And when it arrived at Dave's house, I found out that he found out that one of the cables had basically completely snapped through. Easy to fix, but still a ball ache, and easily avoidable if you use multi-strand cable. I found the stuff from the DIY store that's called alarm cable or phone cable pretty good, but you're looking for thin multi-strand wire. And you can see, as a final thought, that I have bought a print of an Iron Maiden poster off of eBay. I have cut it up, and I have taped it on with clear tape as a decal. It would probably be prettier if I had used sticky back plastic, but as I have mentioned, I am not very good at this stuff, and that would just end with air bubbles under it all the way around, which would set my OCD off something chronic. So yeah, in answer to the question, can you build a miniature pinball cabinet for less than the price of what people are charging on the internet just to build you the shell? I would say you absolutely can. And there my pinball quest would have ended. But then I got to thinking, because another company who will not be going to space today was selling a full-size pinball table, virtual, and they too had pissed off an awful lot of their customers with their behaviour. And I wondered, could I not just make a miniature pinball table, but could I actually make a full-size 40-inch pinball table for less than £100? That's going to be the next episode.